All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. So today we have two major news stories, and yeah, let's just get right into it. So the first thing is Ankalaev. He's been fairly active on his Twitter, and especially over the last few weeks, calling out the division. Sounds like he really wants to be an active champion, which is really refreshing because a lot of these champions get the belt and go away for 6 months and don't really want to fight as often. But yeah, it's he's been calling out Yuri and Pereira for International Fight Week. That fell through, and now he's just calling out the rest of the division, which is like I said, the champion's not supposed to pursue the contenders. It's the other way around. And I know Ankalaev, he probably doesn't do the tweeting. It's probably all Ali, but still, this tweet right here he just made today has broken many hearts across the MMA world, and yeah, it's just, if true, it's very unfortunate. So he tweets, Alex done, he never coming back. Let's move on. June, July, August, I said yes. Now, obviously, until we hear it from the horse's mouth, being Alex Pereira himself or the UFC making official post, it's all in the air. But if anyone's going to know the state of Alex Pereira's career, it would be his next opponent. You know what I mean? So obviously they're in talks, him and his management, with Pereira and his management. So I feel like he does have some ground to stand on when he talks about this kind of stuff. But like I said, if true, as much as this is unfortunate, Alex Pereira is getting old. He's what, 37, 38? You know what I mean? He's done so much in the sport. And this matchup, him versus Ankalaev, is kind of a nightmare matchup. And Ankalaev is not exactly a big star. So I feel like the UFC is probably going to try to pull some sort of pay cut shit. Because if you look at his hacking conspiracy, I just don't think he was hacked. I think, you know, he was genuinely frustrated with the treatment by the UFC. And I feel like the UFC is really ice cold in these negotiations and stuff because, you know, he'll save the day 3-4 times last minute, you know what I mean? And then the second he has a bad performance or, you know, he loses the belt, then they just act like they don't even know him. And I just feel like they're probably trying, like I said, a pay cut, or they're just going to be like, oh, you either do this date for us or, you know, we're moving on. And if I'm Alex Pereira, I would be pissed off too. And I just don't really have much of an appetite for this rematch, to be honest with you. And that's the thing. In retrospect, if we look at Alex Pereira's career as a whole, he never should have been able to accomplish half of what he's done. You know what I mean? As much as, you know, he's a one-dimensional kickboxer when he came into the UFC, I get you can improve and all that, but in MMA standards, he never should have been able to even get to the top 5. And I don't care how many favorable matchups he has. It's 2025. Each UFC fighter in the top 15 should have wrestling, grappling, and striking. You know what I mean? So for Alex Pereira to get up there, not only top 5, but get the middleweight champion and then become the light heavyweight champion and defend multiple times in light heavyweight, it's unheard of. Aside from him and Israel Adesanya, these kickboxers should never be able to accomplish what they've done. And as much as he hasn't had like a very long career compared to a lot of the other UFC champions and stuff like that, I would consider his career damn near legendary, honestly, because like I said, sure, he had favorable matchups and a lot of people are jumping ship because of this Ankalaev performance, but it is what it is. This was bound to happen, you know what I mean? Because as much as Ankalaev is a majority striker, just him having that wrestling in the back pocket was enough to throw Pereira completely off. And I get Pereira had really good takedown defense, but he was unable to get his offense going. And sure, he had a few injuries, but I just don't see the rematch going any other way. And yeah, like I said, if this is true, by all means, Alex Pereira, you deserve the world, man. Like, he has a diehard fan base. I'm sure when he's retired officially, his fan base will back him on whatever business ventures and all that he has coming up. Maybe he wants to do some sort of exhibition, maybe a boxing later on. I don't know. But yeah, you know, if anyone should be allowed to walk away into the sunset, it's Alex Pereira. The activity, you know, just showing up time and time again, you know, he deserves all the respect in the world. And I find it unfortunate the fan base kind of turning on him after this last one. You know, I'll admit I was disappointed as well. I feel like all the Pereira fans were in his performance, but it is what it is. You back to back at that age, that much wear and tear in the body. He's not a machine. He's just a man, you know. So it's just all credit to Pereira. And yeah, no, this was bound to happen because let's say he beat Ankalaev, he would have fought Jones and then walked away into the sunset. So it's either this was probably the worst case scenario for Pereira. Obviously, losing is bad regardless, but what it had in different divisions, like the implications, similar to like the Topuria fight with Makhachev. A lot of this was riding on a different division. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It is unfortunate because, like I said, I don't really have an appetite for this rematch, but a lot of people say that, you have to beat the champion to get the belt. And, it was a decision. I believe Magomed Ankalaev definitely won, but it was a very like kind of dull fight, to be honest with you. So I get why a lot of the older fans are being like, no, he didn't really beat him. He just outpointed him. But, it's 2025. Not everyone's going to come for like some bar fight slugfest, So it is what it is. And all the best to Pereira if this is true. And I hope Yuri gets in there because Magomed versus Yuri, I feel like Yuri's crazy enough to not be intimidated by Magomed's wrestling. So I feel like Yuri will have probably a lot more success than Pereira did. And Yuri is the last person to be, passive, just leg kicking the whole time. And clearly that's not the way to go. So, and not only that, Yuri has another 5 rounds of footage on Ankalaev, watching him versus Pereira. And I know Pereira beat Yuri, but Ankalaev and Pereira are a lot different strikers. And I feel like this would probably be the most exciting matchup to come to next would be Magomed versus Yuri because, like I said, Ankalaev's not a big star, but if he can go knock out Yuri or finish Yuri, that just does wonders for his name and career. And then after that, he can look at the winner of Khalil versus Jamal Hill. I don't know. Maybe Alberg's in there as well because I hear a lot of people want to see Alberg versus Yuri, but I don't know. If Pereira's done, I'd like to see Yuri get another title shot just because, he's a fan favorite and he probably deserves it just because of his activity and just finishing Jamal the way he did. That was very impressive. So, yeah, it is what it is. Next, we have Gene Silva. So Gene Silva says that he's got a fight scheduled, and then he says, obviously this is translated from Portuguese, it is a fight that I've been asking for a long time. For those who look at my social media every day, they'll remember that I mentioned this name. And then if you look here, hold on, where is it? No, it's not one. Here it is. So this was translated on the description of his YouTube video that I believe that they found this from. And it says that, who do you think will be my next fight? Volkanovski, Diego Lopez, Arnold Allen, Movsar Evloev, Aljamain Sterling, Yair Rodriguez. Just talk about it in the comments. And people are saying that it was probably either one of these because I heard some people saying that it might be Lerone Murphy, but I just feel like the UFC is a lot more higher on Gene Silva than they are Lerone Murphy, and I feel like they're going to want to jump him to the title shot because and that's the thing too. Obviously, Gene Silva is not going to get the immediate title shot. I feel like he's going to have to fight one more time, but I'd be willing to bet that they're going to give him like maybe a Yair if he doesn't get the title shot or a Diego Lopez because if they're going to give Movsar an unranked Aaron Pico, it's not far off from reality to give, I think, what is it, like 11 or 13th ranked Gene Silva, Diego Lopez, who is probably number 1 or 2 in the rankings. And yeah, no, I feel like out of all these, like I said in previous videos, Diego Lopez would be the best decision. And he doesn't give a date that he's going to return. But honestly, like I said in my other video, I'd really like him to return on that Poirier card because that Poirier Holloway card needs all the help it can get. And I feel like a lot of these like welterweight matchups and featherweight matchups, like they're all really great on paper. Let's just get them official. Let's get these official. Even if it's not Gene Silva, let's just get another like top 5 contender on that card. Let's just get the ball rolling because as much as these main, like the Holloway Poirier, it's not really asked for, but it's going to be a war. And then you got Chimaev versus Dricus, which is a really, really, really exciting fight, like hype-wise and fight-wise. And then you got Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. Not as much hype. Like, as it would have been Makhachev, but still, I feel like if you look at a lot of their undercards and even like the main cards themselves, they're not as strong as they would have been like 4 or 5 years ago. So, like I said, it's time to get the ball rolling, and I'd like to see when Gene Silva is going to come return. I can't imagine it'll be that long because Gene Silva, I'm assuming he likes to be active, and Diego Lopez, as much as it was a bit of a war, I feel like he can return in the end of summer, if not maybe September. But I'd like to see Gene Silva, especially on one of these pay-per-views, because I feel like he brings so much to the table. And not only that, like, people were kind of divided with him versus Bryce Mitchell on the press conference. Some people were saying that he was doing too much, but I just feel like doing too much is a lot better than doing nothing at all. And I'm really excited to see what Gene Silva's got next. And as much as people are saying that, oh, the Fighting Nerds fraud checked, Carlos Pratas lost, I feel like they're such a solid team, and I just feel like they can only get better from that. And a lot of the coaches, I've seen an interview where they're like, Carlos Pratas losing wasn't just bad for him. It was a learning lesson for all of us. And if anything, it'll just make the team better. It'll make more of the regimen better. And not only that, Gene Silva, I feel like he takes his fight career a lot more serious than Pratas. Like, Pratas smokes and drinks all the time. So, you know what I mean? As much as Pratas is a really good fighter, and I'm definitely a fan of Pratas, it's just, I feel like Gene Silva probably has a higher ceiling than him, if we're going to be honest. So, yeah. Gene Silva and Mauricio Hufi, I'm very excited for. Kyle Brio, too. It's just, I don't know who's going to be able to fight next, So, it's just, yeah, I feel bad for Kyle because he wants to fight, but I guess people are holding up the middleweight division, and a lot of people don't want to fight him. Rightfully so. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who do you think Gene Silva is going to return against? Because, like I said, Diego Lopez would be the best fight. If not Diego Lopez, Yair Rodriguez. I'd like to see him against an elite striker. That would be pretty sick. And I would have said they probably were going to do Gene Silva versus Movsar, but obviously before the Aaron Pico thing. And yeah, they seem to be really high on Aaron Pico. So depending on how Gene Silva looks in his next fight, he might get the next title shot. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to see what's next for him. And yeah, I'm just going to keep watching Gene Silva, keep on checking for any updates. And yeah, like I said, really, really excited. And yeah, a lot of these pay-per-views can use a little help. So hopefully we get the ball rolling. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one.